Hello and welcome to a supply guide for Hearts of Iron 4, No Step Back. So, today I have with me my Book of Wisdom that we will be using for this because this is very complex. So, in the beginning of the video, we will be going over basically how railways network, rivers, trains, and motorization levels, okay? And then we'll do a transport plane thing in there too. Then, at the second half of the video, we're going to go over ports and floating harbors and how all of that works. So, we're going to do land first, then the Navy section. Okay, so to start us off with in the land section, you may wonder, how does this supply stuff work? Well, it's very simple. You're going to go to your capital. So our capital here is going to be Ottawa. Our capital here, as you can see, has a supply cap of 68. Okay, this is a very important number to remember. You can see that it is modified from a base of 5, from civilian factories of 4.2, and from military factories of 20.4, and from dockyards. You can see that they all add to the supply cap. Now, why is this important? Because this value, halved, is the maximum supply that can go in any direction. So, if we look at this one, this supply hub right here, we have a level 5 rail network, which we're going to talk about in a minute. There is only 34 supply going here. Now, the reason is because half of 68 is 34. So you have limited yourself in the amount of supply. So you must fix this problem first. So the ways to fix this problem are the following. You can build more infrastructure. More infrastructure will give you more supply cap, okay? Because it will come from the base. There's a little factor here, but we'll talk about it later. But basically, you increase your infrastructure here, and it will increase the supply from the state. And you can see right here, from infrastructure is an additional 1.5. This is why it is increasing. Now, the other way to increase that number is to build factories. So if we just build a lot of civilian factories there, you can see that our supply will go from 71 to 76 something-ish, okay? Now, this is very good. This is how we increase our supply. So we fixed problem number 1. Problem number 1 has been fixed. We are now able to get 35 supply to every railhead possible, okay? But how do we get the maximum supply to these railheads? Well, it's very simple. This is what railways are for. So, in the beginning of the game, you should check if your railway network from your capital to any of your supply hubs is a level 5 network. It is probably not. This is one of the main issues that you should fix, okay? You should build a level 5 railway to your supply hubs and a massive port, okay? This will get the 35 supply to every single direction possible. Now remember, 35 supply is the maximum limit, and you get that from building level 5 railway networks, okay? Now, you may ask, what does each level of railway get you? Well, I'm glad you asked. If we go to the western side of Canada, we will be able to see one of the following things. We have very low railway networks out here, okay? And we will also now talk about rivers. So, a level 1 railway line, which is what this one is, to this port, right, is what we're talking about. So, you can see that this supply hub is going to push supply here. So, they will both be connected. Now, how does this work? Do you see this little, it's very hard to see, but it should be this little line, if I can press it. This little line right here is giving you supply, basically. That is the river connection to your hubs, okay? It acts as a level 1 railway, okay? And it cannot be upgraded. You must also control both sides of the river to access this, okay? Now, another thing you should note is that this supply hub up here also is getting the same supply from this river. It just doesn't show it. You can see, if you click on this, you can see Vancouver, Northwest Canada is being a river bottleneck. So, just make sure whenever you build it, you have on a river, and if it doesn't display that little dotted line thing that starts there, then you can also, it also still works on the other side, it just doesn't show it's working. So, that's how that river thing works in a level 1. So, with this, we can see that we get a level 1 rail network, which gets us 15 supply. Okay? So, hypothetically, what if we wanted to upgrade this? If we go down here to Canada and we see that we have built this supply hub out in the middle of nowhere, you can see that it is getting 15 supply from our capital. And the bottleneck is a level 1 supply because this rail network right here, if we look, is a level 1 supply. So we need to increase it. Okay, so to increase that supply, we're going to build the rail network up. So to a level 2, and a level 2 will get you 20 supply. Very simple. A level 3 will get you 25 supply. A level 4 will get us 30 supply. A level 5 railway network will give us 35 supply. This is very good. This is how this works. Level 5 network gets you to level 5 supply hubs, okay? So, we have gone over the factories and we've gone over the rivers. So, another thing we need to check out is the trains. Choo-choo trains. So, these choo-choo trains bring supplies from your capital to any of these supply points out here, okay? Now, you can check. You will be able, these trains have to come out here. Now, the further distance you are away from your capital to any point out here requires more trains, okay? So, just to keep in mind, closer your network is right here to any of these supply hubs, the less trains it takes. The further away it is, like out here, the more trains it will take to supply troops, okay? That is something to keep in mind. One other thing we need to talk about is from your supply hub, if you click on it, you will be able to see this motorization level, okay? What this is talking about is it might be very hard to see, but this little pink outlines. So if we talk about like here and here, basically these dark ones, these dark lines means that your supply hub can actually reach there, okay? The pink lines mean they can't. So when you increase your motorization level, and I believe if it's 40 for the first one and then 80 for the second one, you will see that the light pink ones start to go deep red, which means they can be supplied. And if you click it again, it means that they will all be covered, okay? So this increases the range of the supply hub, okay? That is how that is done. So you can also do this from your army screen. If you make an army, you can see the motorization priority and put it to, so it's different here for some reason because paradox. First one is cavalry. The second one is the first motorization level, so 40 trucks are required. The second one is 80 trucks are required. And you can see that this supply hub is automatically giving, in theory, giving the motorization level that you dictate. Would I trust this on a per basis? No, I would manually go do and set it, but it is there for your convenience. Now, before we get into talking about a deeper dive into province supply, there's one more thing that you need to know. If you fight in an enemy, if you're fighting with volunteers in, let's say, the Spanish Civil War, you will find that if you run out of supply, you're like, why are my guys out of supply? Well, it could be one of the following reasons. If you click the double truck icon, right, on the supply hub while you're fighting there in the enemy zones, and it's just not happening, and you're not getting any supply in regions you should be, it's because the host country, this country that's at war, that you're fighting for, does not have any trucks. You need to give them trucks, and your supply issues will be lessened. And remember this. This and trains would also help them, so don't ignore that. Okay, so a deeper dive into how this province supply works is going to be the following. We can see that we have, up here, a level 1 supply hub, okay? We can also see that the infrastructure here is 1, okay? Starting at base, okay? If we come up here and we go to a province and we hover over it with a supply mode, we can see the remaining supply in the province right there in pink or purple is 1.04. We get some from the supply hubs, okay? We get 0.64 from supply hubs, and you see the supply from state in Northeast Canada is 0.3, okay? And you can see 0.3 from infrastructure. Now, This means if any unit is standing on here, they can have a total use of 1.04 supply before they start suffering from attrition, okay? Or they start not having enough supply. Now, to increase, we can do two things here. We can increase the state supply, which is what we're going to do. This means that the state as a whole, for all of these provinces up here, and every single one, will start to give more supply from infrastructure. So, we will remember that it is 0.3 right now. If we upgrade our infrastructure to level 2, if we remember, right, and we build it, we can see that from the supply hub, it is now 0.6 from infrastructure, okay? So level 2 gets you 0.6, and if we keep going with this, 0.9, and if we go even further, we can see is 1.20, again, consistently of being a 0.3 increase for your supply from the state. And at level 5, it is 1.5, okay? So that is how you can make, and you can see that this state up here is no longer red, so it has some supply, so that this supply in this state is now 2.72, a dramatic increase from the 1. Now, that is how we can increase supply on a per province area in this whole province, okay? So infrastructure on a province-wise, so this thing is a province or region. So then in this region, this province specifically is getting more supply from the state of this whole thing because of the infrastructure we have built, okay? So we are now sitting comfortably at 2.72 supply remaining in this province, okay? We can see that our little supply hub also increased slightly. It's not very much, but it does slightly increase your supplies from supply hubs, okay? So we want to increase this value further. How do we do that? Well, it's very simple. You have a supply hub, and these provinces out here need to be near it, okay? Pressing this button won't do anything, okay? For outer provinces that this zone does not reach, okay? But if we increase the motorization level, okay, and we are within the red range, we can see that our supplies is now 4.92 because our supplies from our supply hub is 3.32, okay? So it is 1.12 right now, so we have a total supply remaining of 2.72. One level of motorization gives us 2.2, so a 3.82% reserve from supply. And if we increase it again, it is now 4.92, okay? So we want to make this value even more on a per basis, okay? So how do we do that? Very simple, we build railways, okay? So at a level 2, if we're going to build this up here, we can see that our remaining supply right here is 2.72. It is now 3.06. If we do it again, we can see that it will go to 3.40, okay? If we do it again at a level 4 railway network, it goes to a 3.74. If we do it one final time to give the supply hub to 35 supplies, you can see that it goes to 4.8, okay? Now we're going to apply our bonuses again. So now it is 5.18, and if we do it one more time, it is now 6.28. This is how you get supplies to these little provinces out here at a much higher efficiency, okay? First, if you want to increase your supplies throughout the province, try the motorization level. If that doesn't work, you need to increase either the rail network or your infrastructure, okay? Your infrastructure is going to be very low compared to the railway network, but if you absolutely need more supplies, build infrastructure. Otherwise, the railway network should help, and then if that doesn't work, then build infrastructure, okay? So that is how that is done. Some last couple of things we'll cover over here before we talk about the supply planes is supply hubs cost 20,000. This means that they are very inefficient at building. Okay, this means that you can basically build 2 civilian factories for every supply hub. So be very careful where you put these things. And this is before we go talk about the ports, which break this whole system. Okay, just remember, a supply hub depends on the railway network only. Okay, it doesn't matter where it is. Right, it's not, you can't increase a supply hub's maximum supply just by building something. You must connect it to a level 5 railway network, and that railway network has to be level 5 all the way back to your capital, okay? It has to be level 5 all the way to get the 35 supply. Okay. Now on transport planes. So one last thing we need to take a look at before we get off the supplies and go to the transport planes is that weather does affect how much supply a province gets. So these are provinces, and then this whole big area right here, which basically is regions, okay? These little provinces are affected by weather. Now, we can see that deep snow gives supply efficiency minus 40 and supply truck attrition plus 100, okay? Then, if you add snowing on top of that, the supply efficiency goes down even more, and the supply truck attrition goes even more, okay? And then if you do the very cold, you can see that we basically have almost no supply efficiency. We have a minus 40, a minus 10, so you're at minus 50, and then you add another 40 on top of that, you are at minus 90% supply efficiency. And then this also adds another 100% to your truck attrition, okay? So if you start using trucks here, you're going to start losing a lot of trucks supplying these zones, okay? Just remember that that is a thing. It would not really affect you in planning. It might in planning strategically. Just know that it is a thing. That fighting in bad weather is not a very good idea. But hey, there you go. Okay, on to the transport aircraft. Okay, so supply planes. We have this army out here, and you can see that its supply status is at 60% because it's out here and it has no supply, okay? Now, we're going to resupply these units. Now, we have 100 transport aircraft here. Now, they nerfed transport aircraft from when this patch came out to now. So they now, I believe, only provide 0.2 supply instead of 1.2 supply. So there you go. Now, this does not mean transport aircraft are useless. We can see that they are in range of these units, okay? So we're going to do one of two things. We're going to select the aircraft. We're going to do this region right here, right? And then we're going to do air supply. Now remember, this costs command power, which is up here, 20. It's quite a bit, actually. Now, we can see that we will be supplying these units down here with some resupply, okay? You can see that the air mission efficiency is only 41.8 because we do not cover this whole region, okay? Now, you can see that our supply situation should start to recover a little bit, right? You can see that our units are now, in theory, fully supplied, okay? They are no longer taking a penalty. Now, your air region right here should be able to cover a certain amount of the supply that you are using, okay? Depending on how many transport aircraft you have them resupplying with, okay? You can see that the number goes up between 3.3 and 2.3%. So, remember that that is a thing you can do. One thing you should note here, it does not provide oil and does not provide equipment. It only provides supplies. So that means that these guys down here will only get their supplies periodically, right? And they're not going to get equipment or oil, but it is a solution if you are fighting in the absolute worst terrain, which some of this, let's be honest here, it is pretty bad terrain out here. They will be able to be resupplied somewhat, okay? Just remember that transport planes are not as effective as they used to be, but they are still effective at resupplying multiple forces in the zone that are considerably undersupplied, okay? Okay, so now to ports. So, for ports, it is very crucial that if you have an inland supply hub, okay, your capital's inland, that you build a level 5 network all the way to your closest harbor, okay, and get it to 35 supply, okay? You build the network first, and if that doesn't get you up there, you must have a level 4 port to do this, and 5 to be safe, but then you would get it the level rail 5 network there, and it will get you to 35 supply. Now, remember, all of your supplies that go overseas will come out of this port, okay? So, if it's not at 35, that means everything else will not be 35. It will be whatever the port is, okay? So, in this case, Quebec has a level 6 port, and it is getting 35 supply because it has a level 5 railway network, okay? Now, if we look at ports, we can see that the construction level is 5,000 plus 1,000 per existing naval base, okay? So, what does that mean in theory? It means that, hey, building a naval base costs you stuff, okay? But here's the catch, and this is why everybody in multiplayer builds naval bases instead of supply hubs. You can build basically 4 naval bases for 1 supply hub. Now, here's the catch, right? We're going to build a naval base out here, okay, in our own territory. So, let's do that. We're going to build a level 1 naval base right here, okay? It has been built. You can see that the supply from the capital is 20. For a level 1 port, you're getting 20 supply in this entire region, okay? And then you can increase the motorization levels and do whatever you need to do, okay? Now, if we upgrade this port to a level 2, you will see it goes to 25 supply. Upgrade to level 3 will get us a 30 supply. And upgrading to level 4 will get us a 35 supply, okay? Which is the maximum. You only need a level 4 port. Going above it, let's say to a level 5, does nothing. Level 6 does nothing. Level 7 does nothing for the supply connection to the capital. It does nothing, okay? So a level 4 port is what you should be gearing for, okay? Now, again, you can increase the supply from the motorization level here, and if you wanted a level 10 port, you can build all the level 10 port. Now, just remember, that's the thing you can do. Now, if we take a look, the reason why everybody in multiplayer builds these level 1 ports everywhere is basically you get 20 supply out of it without having to construct a supply hub, okay? So it's very important that you remember that. Build ports over supply hubs if you can, okay? One last thing to note about ports is the following. We have built this port. It is a 20 supply port, okay? We are now going to take a railway and connect it to it, okay? And we're going to make it a level 1 railway, okay? And you should see that this port is now connected, okay? And is being supplied from our capital with 15, okay? You can see that a normal one should get 20. If we go over here and we build a normal port right there, you will see that this is getting 20 supply, while this is getting 15. And the UK can assist, but we're not worried about that. Now, you will understand that a supply harbor by itself, without a railway network, is getting more supply than one with a railway network. If you build a rail network to a supply hub on a naval base, okay, it will then use the lowest network there. It will not use this supply hub, right? It will use the railway network. So you're going to have to increase the railway network, okay, to do this. So it's now at 20, 25 for level 3, level 4 it's 30, and then it goes to 35, okay? Just remember, if you have a naval base connected by a level 1 railway network, it's not going to get the maximum supply from your naval base. That's basically from your capital. It's going to take it from whatever supply hub it is near, okay? Or whatever it's connected to. So remember, it is often more better to not have any railways linking any of these up, okay? It is often better to just have them by themselves as a port, okay? So now we're going to go on to the final thing of floating harbors. Okay, so for floating harbors, this is how you do it. You must be able to, 1, build floating harbors with dockyards. And to do that, you must have the second invasion tech for your naval transports, okay? Landing craft unlocks transport or floating harbors, okay? Now, to actually use floating harbors, it is to the right of naval invasions, okay? So just remember, you must click Naval Invasion Order with floating harbor support, okay? So now we're going to just do a naval invasion, okay? And this time we're not going to be able to land in a port, okay? Let's just say for some reason we're going to attack without a port, which is what floating harbors are meant for, okay? They're meant to be used in conjunction with, okay? So we're going to land one right here, next to Norfolk, okay? And we're going to wait for the days to be planned. We'll come back when that's done. Okay, so now we're going to launch the invasion order, okay? So now that our transports are going, we will be able to see that when we land, we're going to have a floating harbor. So we're about to land, right? And now you can see that this little thing, this little icon right here, it means you have a floating harbor, okay? And you can check. You only get 15 supply from a floating harbor, and you can check the amount of days that it will be until it's exhausted, okay? So that's how you get floating harbors and how much supply they have. It's 15. That's how you actually use them, okay? If you found this guide helpful, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, and if you want to see more of these videos, click that video that's displayed on your screen right now to watch How to Civ Boost. Otherwise, have a nice day.